Okay. 1.7.124. Okay, I'm going to start. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare
Right.
Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Vande Rupa Sanatano, Vasudhau, Siddhi Gopalako. Okay. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Mat Prityutpadana Vyagra, Shri Narada Suprittama, Hitam Meva Kritatyantam Bhavan Me Rasikottama. The Supreme Lord said, Narada, my dearest friend, you are always eager to please me, and you are the best of those who relish transcendental emotions. You have now done me a great favor. What you have done here is not offensive, Krishna implies. Those who know the transcendental tastes of my devotional service behave like this naturally. You have no reason to feel ashamed. Suhrittama, Paramahitakaram, Yadva, Te, Nirupad, Upakari, Shrestha. Suhrittama indicates that Lord Krishna is telling Narada Muni that he is his greatest well-wisher, and also that he is giving the greatest form of welfare to others. Pragyapi prema kritat priyanam vicheta gava nalavega tonta santapa jatena duranta shoka veshena gadham bhavadiva dukkham. It is true that when one is parted from those one loves, pure love makes one suffer within, as if from a blazing fire. The burning pain creates a remorse that further deepens into irrepressible sorrow. Thus one at first seems wretched. Narada may agree that he need not be embarrassed for unavoidably losing control amidst the ecstasies of Bhagavad Bhakti. Yet he had caused Krishna great distress by sending the Lord into a bewildered trance of remembering his devotees in Vrindavan. In this verse and the next, Krishna therefore tries to convince Narada that he need not blame himself. The misery of transcendental separation is only apparent. Yet while outwardly showing many symptoms of mental pain, a devotee feeling Viraha Bhava is absorbed in incomparable bliss. Thus, the apparently wretched devotee is actually most fortunate. Whatever momentary distress he may feel will soon give way to complete happiness. This is all straight from Sanatana Goswami. Tathapi sambhoga sukhadapi stuta sakopyanirvachya tamo manorama pramoda rashi parinamato dhruvam tatra spuret tad rasikaika vedya. But this anguish of separation is praised as greater than the happiness of enjoying with those one loves. Separation is so pleasing to the mind that it cannot be described. It always transformed at last into an abundance of pleasure. Only experts in tasting moods can understand how this happens. The so-called bliss of merging into the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth is often said to be indescribable. But the bliss of pure prema is even harder to describe. And most hard to describe is the inconceivable ecstasy of transcendental love in separation, which is born in pain but grows into the greatest possible pleasure. The ecstasy of separation is not the miserable experience one it seems to outsiders. It is manorama, the cause of full satisfaction for the heart. If someone still asks how one can feel happy within misery, we should know that only the rasikas, or those who have spontaneous eagerness to taste this prema, can understand it. Brahmanando nirvachya tasmadapyadhikyena bhajananando nirvachya taraha tatra cha premanando nirvachya tamaha. The Sanatana Goswami notes that the bliss of Brahman realization is indescribable, and the bliss of devotional service is more indescribable, and the bliss of love of Krishna, that is most indescribable. Anirvachyatama, most impossible to describe. Most, not just more, most. Tachoka dukho paramasya paschat chittam yatah purnat taya prasanna samprapta sambhoga mahasukhena sampannavattishtati sarvadaiva. After the pain of despair is relieved, one's heart feels fully satisfied, delighting constantly as one enjoys the great pleasure of meeting with one's beloved. Those who have not yet realized their natural attraction toward Krishna cannot understand the ecstasy of separation. They should not vainly pretend to be expert in things to which they have no real access, but should instead take guidance from authentic rasikas in the line of Vaishnava Parampara on how to gradually become fit for understanding the subtleties of devotion. Faithful hearing and service are required. Still, the material mind is demanding. So, neophytes may ask, doesn't excessive misery normally result in either delusion or death? Why should unlimited joy arise from misery? Granted, the laws of nature dictate that pleasure is generally followed by pain, and pain by pleasure. But that doesn't mean that pain literally becomes pleasure and vice versa. It means that circumstances in this world are always changing, so that neither pleasure nor pain can long continue without being replaced by the other. To say that some kind of suffering matures into the highest ecstasy is unreasonable. In answers to such demands to justify viraha bhava by logic, what pure devotees' personal experience may be offered as definite evidence. Swanubhava pramanya tatha tadani sukha. This is the direct experience of pure devotees. Pure devotees do indeed enjoy ecstasy in separation. And since no other cause for this ecstasy can be ascertained, the cause must be their intense experience of what appears from the outside to be suffering. To help newcomers to the devotion process understand viraha bhava, Krishna speaks the current verse comparing the ecstasy of viraha bhava to the pleasurable sensation of relief from pain, a relief with which everyone is familiar. A person may struggle to achieve some object of satisfaction, and though his struggle may be painful, when he achieves his object, the pain turns into glory. The ecstatic distress of viraha bhava may appear similar to the pleasure that follows pain, but as expressed here by the phrase sampannavat, as if experiencing. This is only the external appearance. In reality, the ecstasy of separation comes not from the eventual meeting and enjoying with one's beloved, but from the pain of separation itself. That ecstasy is complete satisfaction, in which one never feels any insufficiency. That ecstasy may be compared to the pleasure of gratification after deprivation, but actually it is much more sublime. The mind of an ordinary person is relieved when he can rejoin those he loves and again gratify his senses. But a pure devotee's greatest ecstasy arises from serving and remembering Krishna in separation. Ayam bhava. This is the point. Priyatama janena saha kreda visheshe vritte sati yatha makha sukhena sampannam manasyat tathaiva viraha shokat yuparameti ti chitta prasannata adina karyena karana anumana pramoda rashi spurtir avashya mantavya eva. Just as when one is able to experience unique playful sports with one's most beloved, and his mind becomes completely filled with great happiness. Similarly, when the distress due to that separation and that anguish, when they go away, then there is satisfaction of the mind. From the effect, we understand the cause. So we understand that certainly that person is experiencing delight. Sukha vishesha udayam vina chitta prasannatadya sambhava. Because without this type of special happiness, the mind does not attain that kind of bliss and so on. Tatspurtesya tadanim karanantara darshanat viraha dukkha deva asau aspurat. Iti cha mantavyam eva. And because there is no other reason other than this, it should be accepted that this has come about because he has gotten out of the distress of separation. So the distress of separation itself gives rise to a unique type of bliss. Narada accepts boons from Krishna. Ichet punastadrishameva bhavam krishtam kathanchit tatta bhavatasya. Yesham na bhati matepi tesham gadhopakari smritidah priyana. One may want to feel that separation again and may indeed feel distressed if one cannot. Thus, a person who can remind one of a beloved not present is considered the most sincere and helpful friend. The neophyte mind may still be confused. That mind may think, according to the axiom that pleasure leads to pain and pain to pleasure, the abundant joy felt by an elevated devotee in Prema Bhakti is bound to give way to disappointment when circumstances change, as in this world they always do. The more one is elated now, the more one will suffer depression. Prema is greater than the ecstasy of worshipping God in mere reverence, and certainly much greater than the ecstasy of personal identification with the Supreme. Therefore, when the bliss of prema is interrupted by the pain of separation, one is plunged into the worst distress. To dispel this confusion, Krishna now conclusively proves that the apparent pain of viraha bhava is in fact pleasure. The hearts of devotees absorbed in viraha bhava are unavoidably compelled to seek more of it. They cannot tolerate losing this ecstasy. Krishna's proof therefore is simple. How can anyone's heart feel the urge to suffer more and more pain unless that pain is really pleasure? Outsiders may perceive a devotee's ecstasy as suffering, and the devotee may speak and act as if it were, but the truth must be just the opposite. Judging from the strength of the devotee's urge to continue suffering viraha bhava, that bhava must in fact be the ultimate happiness. A material example may help clarify this point. Although the coldness of ice is the opposite of the heat of fire, ice placed on one's body may feel as hot as burning coal. In this example, the burning sensation from the ice is illusory, the numbing coldness real. Similarly, the pain of viraha bhava is a false appearance, disguising the reality of indescribable joy. The difference between the ecstasy of separation from Krishna and the common sensation of being touched by ice is that the deep feeling of viraha bhava is known only to a few, to Krishna and some of his most intimate devotees. Krishna in this verse is referring especially to his own ecstasy and separation from the residents of Braja. But his description equally applies to their ecstatic remembrance of him, both ways. Or to be more correct, it applies to the Vrajavasis with the exception of the young gopis. These gopis are never relieved for a moment from the tension of viraha bhava, since even when together with Krishna, they are in anxiety about losing him. They never lose touch with this ecstasy and so have no reason to think about regaining. Yet they do not consider their pain of separation a goal for anyone to strive for, because it burns them more sharply than a million forest fires. In the gopis' own words, Sarikchaila Vanodesha Gavo Venur Ravaine Sankarshana Sahayena Krishnena Charitah Prabhu Punah Punah Smarayanti Nandagopa Sutambata Sriniketa Statpada Kai Usmartum Naiva Shaknumaha. Dear Uddhava Prabhu, when Krishna was here in the company of Sankarshan, he enjoyed all these rivers, hills, forests, cows, and flute sounds. All these remind us constantly of Nanda's son. Indeed, because we see Krishna's footprints, which are marked with divine symbols, we can never forget him. As this statement implies, the gopis do not worry about the pain of forgetting Krishna, because forgetting Krishna is something they cannot do even if they want to. They sometimes would like to forget Krishna to avoid the ever-increasing agony of remembering him. And certainly they do not need to ask to be put into a fire of separation. The gopis feel the pain of separation from Krishna constantly and in a unique way. Therefore, the happiness they enjoy is actually greater than that of anyone else. They are superior to all other servants of God and to all his other intimate devotees. Kathanchana smaranameva tesham avehita jeevana danameva tesham yato vismaranam kadachit pranadhikanam maranacha nindhyam. Please understand, when somehow made mindful of those one loves, one is given back one's life. Forgetting those more dear than one's own breath is more painful than dying. Now this is being stated in another manner. न संभवेद स्मरणं कदापि स्वजीवानां यद् अपि प्रियाणां तथापि केनापि विशेषणेन स्मृति प्रहर्षाय यथा सुजीवितम्. Those dear as life, one can never forget. But when reminded of them in a special way, one feels happy, like one who has lived a life of good fortune. Just as one always remembers the most important events in one's own life, Krishna's devotee always remembers Krishna, and Krishna always remembers the devotee. Sometimes, however, that remembrance becomes especially sweet as when stimulated by the words of an eloquent Vaishnava. This enhanced remembrance is like the satisfaction of a person whose life has been filled with fortunate events, one success after another. In contrast, humdrum, mediocre existence with no outstanding events is as sad as a life encumbered by poverty. But applying this analogy to the matter at hand without transcendental love, the remembrance of one or dear ones becomes tasteless. This is actually straight taken from the Sanatana Goswami. Even this example is taken from Sanatana Goswami as it is. Ityevam upakarodya bhavatā me mahan tatte smit parama prito nijabhishtan varan brinu. So today you have favored me greatly, and therefore I am delighted with you. Please choose whatever benedictions you would like. Narada reminded Lord Krishna of the gopis' absolute attachment to him, and for this Lord Krishna is thankful. Shri Parikshit Vacha, Munir Jaya Jayot Ghoshak, Savina Geetam Aidata, Vrajat Kridotha Namadhyai, Kirtanaischa Varapradam. Shri Parikshit said, the sage began singing Krishna's glory, playing on his veena and shouting Jai, Jai. He praised Lord Krishna, the giver of benedictions, with songs filled with names arising from his pastimes in Braja. Narada wanted to ask for a few choice and rarely obtainable benedictions. So he first sang for Krishna's pleasure, so that Krishna would be inclined to grant Narada's desire. Most pleasing to Krishna was Narada's ecstatic recitation of names Krishna had acquired in Vraja, like Gokula Mahotsava, Yashodanandan, Nandakumara, Gopa Gopi Jana Priya, Gopi Gana Manohara, and Putanam Mochana. Tatascha Durlapatta Ranam Atma Vidyanam Parama Varanam Sampraptaye Prasamam Ashtav. First of all, he glorified Lord Krishna in order to attain excellent boons that are very rare to be attained and that were so dear to his heart. Swayam Prayagasya Dashashvamesa Tirthadike Dwara Pati Paranti Sambhashitanam Vishaye Brahmitva Purnarthatam Sri Mad Anugrahena Vipradinam Shotukamo Munindro Harshat Krishnasya Nadeva Sakshat Evam Mata Prarthayama Hridyam Tasmin Ramyo Darasimhe Varam Prak. In the Shashwamedha Tirtha, in Prayag to Dwaraka, Narada had wandered and he had spoken with devotees, the Brahmanas in Prayag and all the others, who by the Lord's divine grace had each achieved perfection. Feeling great pleasure, Narada, the king of sages, now wanted to hear of this perfection directly from Lord Krishna's own mouth. Dear mother, Lord Krishna is all attractive lion among generous benefactors. Now therefore Narada begged from him the first blessing he wished to receive. Narada already knew about Krishna's mercy, but he wanted to hear Krishna describe it in his own words. Pure Vaishnavas never lose interest in hearing such topics. Narada had spoken with many devotees, beginning with the Brahman leader of the devotees at Prayag and ending with Uddhava and Dwaraka. And from that he had heard the same story that someone else, not the devotee speaking, was favored by Krishna. For a reader with no taste for Shravanam Chitram Vishnu, this simple repetitious plot might be boring. Vaishnavas, however, are perpetually fascinated by the endless varieties of Krishna's reciprocations with his devotees. Narada was particularly curious about how the devotees he had met, even though they varied greatly in material status, had perfected their lives in all respects. All of them, from the Prayag Brahman and the southern king up to Indra, Brahma, Shiva, and Prahlad, Hanuman, and Uddhava had achieved remarkable success in performing religious duties, in acquiring exalted means for enjoyment, in disentangling themselves from illusion, and in perfecting the transcendental art of serving the Supreme Person. All of them had achieved their manifold success by only one cause, Krishna's grace. Narada had long been curious to better understand how Krishna distributes his mercy, and now he was eager to inquire from Krishna directly. Sri Krishna Chandra Kasyapi Triptirastu Karapina Bhavato na Grahe Bhaktau Premne Chananda Bhajane. Narada said, Sri Krishna Chandra, please grant that no one will ever feel he has enough of your mercy, your devotion service, or pure love for you, the reservoir of ecstasy. Narada wants to be assured by Krishna that no matter how much of Krishna's favor a devotee may receive, the devotee will never become self-satisfied or complacent. Rather, he will always think himself unworthy of the mercy and in need of more and more. Narada mentions Krishna's mercy, Bhakti Yoga, and Prema, all three together, even though they become manifest in a causal sequence, not all at once. Krishna's mercy leads to Bhakti, which develops into Prema. What Narada implies is that Vaishnavas on various levels of devotion progress have different needs. A neophyte needs special mercy from Krishna and his devotees to begin the process of Bhakti Yoga. An intermediate sadhaka needs ample opportunities for practicing his personal bhajan. And a mature devotee driven by a strong urge needs to taste Krishna Prema. Let the impulseless be satisfied with their theoretical self-realization. Narada and his followers never have enough of the ever-increasing ecstasy of discovering their relationships with Krishna. Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Vidvan Nikarachari, Ko Namayam Varomat, Swabhavo Mat Kripa Bhakti Premnam Yakto Yam Eva Yak. The Supreme Lord said, O preceptor of all clever scholars, what kind of benediction is this? My mercy, my devotion service, and ecstatic love for me all have this nature. That should be simply obvious. To Krishna, it sounded ironic that Narada was asking for something that is already an established fact. Since Narada knows everything, he must have had some hidden motive. Indeed, this was so. He wanted to hear Krishna himself extol the glories of Prema Bhakti. Prayagatirtham arabhya bhramam bhramam itaspata atragatyacha ye drishta shrutascha bhavata mune sarve samartha sarvartha jagan nistarakascha te matkripa vishayah kinchit tarattamyam shutah param. O sage, each of the devotees you saw and heard about in your wanderings here and there, from Prayag Tirtha to Dwaraka, is perfect in all respects. Each of them can deliver the entire world, and each has truly received my mercy. There exists between them only degrees of perfection. In each of the places Narada had visited, from Prayag to Dwaraka, he had met with pure devotees who personified the transcendental virtues of Bhakti, and he had heard about others like the residents of Sri Vaikuntha and Sri Nandavraja. By the strength of Krishna's mercy, each of these devotees was situated in perfection and able to elevate others to perfection. This does not mean, however, that their love for Krishna lacked individual distinctions. Pure devotion service is by nature full of variety, so no two devotees are exactly alike. A formal ranking among Krishna's devotees does not exist, but still they show some differences in excellence. Ultimately, Srimati Radharani and her companion gopis are the most excellent devotees. The other pure Vaishnavas acknowledge the supremacy of Srimati Radharani without envy, being satisfied with the unlimited happiness of serving Krishna in their own individual way. The second part of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the glories of Gauranga, will conclusively demonstrate that every pure devotee of Krishna enjoys full satisfaction in his own loving exchanges with Krishna. तथापि तेषाम एकोपि न तृप्यति कथंचन तद्गृहाणं वरानन्यान् मत्तोभीष्टतरान् वरान्. Yet none of these devotees is ever satiated. Please therefore ask from me some other more satisfying benediction. Other than the Vrajavasis, no one is closer to Krishna than the Pandavas and Yadus. They are so fortunate that Krishna lives with them in close intimacy and they're able to share this fortune with their entire family. Nonetheless, they also are dissatisfied, thinking themselves unworthy, lacking in pure devotion and surrender. As Krishna here indicates, this is simply the peculiar nature of Prema Bhakti. Sri Parikshit Vacha. Narsitva Narado Harshad Bhakshavat Sadvaradvayam Yashamano Jagadedam Tambadanya Shiromani. Sri Parikshit said, Narada danced in sheer joy, and like a mendicant asking alms, he begged from Krishna two excellent boons. Speaking to the Lord, the crest jewel of charitable persons, this is what Narada said. Narada was delighted to confirm that all the Vaishnavas he had visited had fully received Krishna's mercy, and that despite such good fortune, these humble devotees were never satisfied with themselves. He danced for a short time and then approached Krishna for two specific blessings. Like a beggar holding his hand in supplication and holding out his cloth to ask charity from a rich man, Narada praised Krishna so that Krishna would be inclined to grant his request. In Narada Vacha. Swadana Tripta Vrittoham Idanim Phalashramaham Swan Maha Karuna Patra Janav Vigyanam Aptavan. Sri Narada said, O Lord, never satisfied with your own charity, I have now achieved my goal. My labors have borne fruit, for I now understand in a practical way who the objects of your greatest mercy are. Narada had taken the trouble to journey from the earth to Brahmaloka and back. And early in his life, he had exerted himself in scriptural rules and austere meditation. Now he feels assured that all these efforts were worthwhile, for with his own eyes, he has seen the truth of what is told in the very scripture. Most valuably, he has heard from Krishna and his devotees in Dwarka about the super excellence of the Vraja Gopis. Ayameva Varprapto Nugrahachauttamo Mataha Yache Tatha Yudarendra Hardam Kinchit Chirantanam. This is the only benediction I need obtain. And for me, it is the greatest mercy. But still lurking among those who give charity, I have one long cherished desire. Since Krishna insists on being generous, Narada wants to request a few wonderful benedictions. Although the desire Narada is about to express has been sitting in his heart for some time, Krishna should not worry that it might be impossible to fulfill. Narada reminds Krishna that Krishna is after all the most competent of all who give charity, and therefore no benediction is beyond his ability to grant. Payam Payam Vraja Janagana Prema Vapi Marala Sriman Nama Mritam Aviratam Gokuladhyuthitam Te Tat Desha Charita Nikaro Jhrimbitam Mishtam Sarva Lokan Jagati Ramayan Mattacheshto Bhavan. O swan, gliding in the lakes of the Vrajavasi flowers, I wish that I may wander everywhere, always chanting, drinking the nectar of your name. Those most sweet names arise from the ocean of Gokula and spread the glories of your infinitely varied dress and ways of acting. As I wander, behaving like a madman, may I distribute joy to everyone in all the worlds. Having glorified him, he then offers his prayer in two verses. An emperor swan likes to visit various lakes where he swims about and enjoys at liberty, unimpeded by lesser birds. And Krishna finds his delight in the heart of his surrendered devotees, each heart a unique treasure house of manifold ecstasies and loving dedication. Narada wants to serve Krishna as an exemplary Parivradikachari, reaching the glories of Harinamamrita throughout the universe. By chanting Krishna's names, Narada will enjoy the highest pleasure and also share that pleasure with everyone else. The bliss of Harinam will inspire such men, such joy in Narada and his followers in disciplic succession that they'll become like intoxicated madmen, laughing, crying, dancing, singing, and sometimes showing all ecstatic symptoms at once. Thus, these devotees will forget their bodily needs and worldly duties. The names Krishna acquires in Gokula are sweeter than the names he acquires elsewhere, including even such names as Vishnu, Narayana, Narsimha, Ramachandra, Mathuranath, and Yadavendra. You can see that's the sequence there. The names of Krishna and Gokula Vrindavan describe qualities of this that cannot be found in any other abode. Only in Vrajabhumi does Krishna place a peacock feather in his hair, gunja ornaments on his ears, and garlands of kadamba flowers around his neck. Only in Vraja does he perform such pastimes as drinking the life air of Putana and breaking the cart in which the demon Shakata was hiding. Only there he is called by such sweet names as Nandanandana, Yashoda Vatsala, Gopika Manohar, and Vraja Janananda. Narada joins Krishna for lunch. Tvadiya sah krida sakritapi bhuvo vapi vachasa krita shrutyangair vas vashati kritadhi kaschidapiyah sanityam shri gopi pitakalasat kashmira vilasat tvadiyang hridvan vik karayatutaram prema bhajanam. Whether by speaking, thinking, hearing, or physical contact, if any person in this world comes in touch even once with these pastimes of yours and is convinced of their importance, may he be endowed eternally with the power to worship your lotus feet in pure love, feet resplendent with the saffron dust from the pitcher-like breasts of the blessed gopis. Narada now submits a second request. He wants to be assured by the Lord's personal promise that anyone in the future who directly or indirectly experiences the transcendental nectar of Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes will be blessed to relish the taste of pure love of God. When he says, Kashchidapi, anyone at all, Narada means that prerequisites as to caste and other qualifications, material or spiritual, should be put aside. Because Krishna's glories and Krishna's devotees are all merciful. Similarly, come in contact with them should automatically make even the most uncivilized, wretched person pious and fortunate. Remembrance of Krishna naturally arises in the heart of one who meets a pure devotee of Krishna and hears from him about Krishna's pastimes. The only qualification the hearer of Krishna Katha needs is that he be Kritadhi, eager to hear and ready to trust the authority of Krishna's representatives who speak his message. Equipped with this one quality of confident determination to hear with faith, a Vaishnava can remember Krishna vividly by listening to accounts of his pastimes and visiting the places where he performed them. As mentioned earlier, the gopis told Uddhava when they met him in the Vrindavan, Sharat Shaila Vanodesha Gavo Venu Ravaine Sankarshana Sahayena Krishnena Charita Prabho Punah Punah Smarayanti Nandagopusutam Bata Sriniketais Padakair Vismartam Naiva Shapnamaha. Dear Uddhava Prabhu, when Krishna was here, in the company of Sankarshan. He enjoyed all these rivers, hills, forests, cows, and flute sounds. All of these remind us constantly of Nanda's son. Indeed, because we see Krishna's footprints, which are marked with divine symbols, we can never forget him. The remembrance of Krishna is awakened not only by hearing his glories and the glories of his land Vidvan, but also by direct physical contact. Vaishnavas can physically touch Krishna's glories in the form of the book Srimad Bhagavatam. They can hear about the Vrindavan Dham from the Bhagavatam. And then if he's fortunate, he can come to Vrindavan to bathe in the dust on which Krishna and his beloved devotees have walked. Shri Parikshit Uvacha. Tata Shri Hastak Kamalam Prasavya Paramadara Evamastrit Sanandam Gopinathena Bhashitam. Shri Parikshit said, Lord Gopinath then extended his divine left hand and with great respect for Narada blissfully said, so be it. Krishna extended his right hand and it refers to the hand normally used to offer benedictions. Narada wanted explicit verification from Krishna. Therefore, Krishna showed his consent in such a way that no one could fail to understand it. When Krishna enjoys his pastimes as Gopinath, the Lord of the Gopis, he reveals the most confidential desire of his heart. And in the same mood as Gopinath, he happily accepts Narada's two requests. So even though he was in Gauranga, he considered himself to be the beloved master or caretaker of the Gopis. Tato Mahaparanandarna ve magno munir visham gayan nityam bahuvidham Krishnam chakre sunir vratam. The sage was suddenly plunged into a vast ocean of spiritual bliss. He sang and danced in various ways, thus delighting Lord Krishna. Only an ecstatic devotee by the unique power of prayer bhakti can give pleasure to Lord Krishna. Krishna is full in his own ecstasy. So an ordinary person, anxious and miserable as he is, can never presume to do anything that can please the Lord. That is Gopi Brahmanji. Suje Bhagavad Dhyam Sa Paramanam Sa Panakam Devaki Rohini Drishtam Rukminya Pariveshittam. Narada then partook of excellent food and drink with the two lords as Devaki and Rohini supervised and Rukmini served. The two lords is Balaram and Krishna. Invited by Balaram and Krishna to take lunch with them, Narada was served excellent sweet rice and other delicious dishes and various refreshing drinks. Since Rukmini was the first of Krishna's queens, she claimed the right to serve the meal. She went around to each of the three people eating and repeatedly offered a small portion of whatever they wanted. This is the way to serve. You repeatedly go around and you give little instead of just dumping a big portion. This was being overseen by the two mothers, Devaki, Rohini, Dhyam, Drishtam, Parikshitam. Narada returns to Prayag. Uddhavena Smaryamanam Vijitam Satya Bhamaya Anyabhir Mahishi Bhischa Ranjitam Tatta Dihaya. Uddhava suggested to Narada what was best to eat. Satyabhama fanned him And the other queens pleased him with various kinds of service. Uddhava went around commenting, "You haven't tried this. This other preparation is your favorite. Take some of this and some of that." Since the weather was quite hot, Krishna's beloved Satyabhama personally fanned the two lords and the exalted sage. The other queens, headed by Jambavati, busied themselves doing everything they could to make the meal a pleasure. They poured cool water from brimming pitchers, eloquently praised the food, and the bodies of Krishna, Balaram, and Narada from all sides, and kept the room fragrant by burning aguru and other incense. Achanto lepito gandhir maladhir mandito muni alankaret bahuvidhair architascha murarina. After the sage finished eating and washed his mouth, Lord Krishna worshipped him, anointing him with fragrant oils and adorning him with flower garlands and varied ornaments. Parikshit advises Uttara to worship Madan Gopal. Atha prayage gatva tan maddapeksha vilambitam munin kritarthayani sammanujapya madhavam. Narada then took leave of Madhava, Lord Krishna, went to Prayag, thinking, "Let me bestow perfection on the sages who have waited so long for me to return." Krishna is called Madhava because he is the moon that arose from the ocean of the dynasty of King Madhu. Madhava is also the name of the deity of Krishna and the Shashwamedha Ghat, where Narada had seen the sages worshipping the Lord and bathing daily at the confluence of the Yamuna, Ganga, and Saraswati during the month of March. Narada wanted to return to Prayag to share his realizations with those sages who, by taking shelter of the Shashwamedha Ghat, had obtained the shelter of Krishna. इत्येतदर्थं समुद्याप्य विना भगवत् आज्ञया तेषां तत्तत् रहस्य प्रकाशनेन तादृत्व आपादनस्य अयोग्यत्वम्. So he took permission from the Lord, because without the order of the Lord, it would be inappropriate for him to reveal these secrets. Swayam yad bhakti mahatyam anubhutamitastatah sanandam vinaya gayan sayayo bhaktilampatah. Thus Narada started on his journey to Prayag, intoxicated with eagerness for pure devotion. Wherever he passed, he vibrated his veena and blissfully sang the glories of the Krishna Bhakti he had seen with his own eyes. Tepi tan mukhatah sarvam shukva tan mahadbhutam sara sangrahena shesham manyat sadhyo jahur dridham. When the sages at Prayag heard the whole wonderful account from the mouth of Narada, they once and for all gave up all interest in everything other than Krishna service, for they were able to grasp the essence of what is of value. Whatever traces of attachment to material work and knowledge still lingered in the hearts of the sages were at once cleansed away when they heard Narada's account of his travels. At that very moment they gave it up. They were wise devotees, able to recognize the essential truth in what Narada told them. Saram tattvam upadeya amsham va samyak grahitam shilam esham uti tathate. So they had the habit of accepting that which is useful. Kevalam paramam dainyam avalam vyasya shikshaya Shriman Madana Gopala Charanabhyam Upasata. Entering a mood of great and single-minded humility, they began worshipping the lotus feet of Shriman Madana Gopala according to Narada's instructions. It is an axiomatic principle of devotional service that until one rejects everything insubstantial, one cannot grasp the essence of reality. The sages at Prayag, graced by Narada with ultimate enlightenment, now obtained the total humility, dainya, required for entrance into the mysteries of Prema Bhakti. By honestly thinking themselves unworthy of worshipping the personality of God as lotus feet, they earned the priceless treasure of His favor. Matar Gopa Kishoram Tam Tvam cha rasa rasam buddhim tat prema mohita bhishvi gopi bhe rabhito vritam amusham dasyamichanti tadrisha prema bhangibhihi nityam bhajasvatannama sankirtana parayana. Dear mother, you as well should always worship this young cowherd boy. He is the ocean that yields the nectar of the rasa dance, in which divine gopis fully surround him, entranced by pure love. You should cherish the desire to be a servant of these gopis. You should constantly worship him in pure love as they did, and you should dedicate yourself to the Sankirtan of his names. Having finished this story, Parikshit Maharaj is summing up the lesson his mother should learn from him. She ought to absorb herself fully in Krishna consciousness, which in all of its countless varieties derives from and reflects the most perfect love of the gopis who join Krishna in his rasa dance. God in his original form is a young, playful cowherd, and in this form he enjoys his original pleasure. When the Supreme Lord appears in any other form, that appearance is secondary, manifested to satisfy particular devotees. After hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami, Parikshit understood this transcendental fact, and to make his mother also understand it, he recounted this first part of the Bhagavatamrita. Perhaps Mother Uttara, the widow of Krishna's nephew, might feel uncomfortable assuming the mood of the gopis, at least in public. Therefore, Parikshit advises her more aptly to strive to become a servant of the gopis. As Parikshit here points out, the principal method for becoming a servant of the gopis of Vrindavan is Krishna Nama Sankirtan. Immersing oneself in hearing and chanting the names of the divine cowherd boy of Braja, especially the name Krishna. Tat prasiddham yat Krishneti nama, that famous name Krishna. This is the best means to practice worshipping him in pure love, and it is a symptom of one who has achieved the treasure of prema. Tadaiva tadrisha prema bhajanam prakara lakshanam tadrisha prema sampatti lakshanam cha. Gopina mahima kaschit tasam ekopi shakyate nam maya swamukhe kartum merur makshikaya yatha. I cannot describe with my own words even one of the glories of the gopis any more than a mosquito can swallow Mount Meru. Ho Krishna Rasavishta Sadanamani Kirtayat Krishnasya Tat Priyanam Cha Bhaishmya Deenam Gurur Mama. Oh, but my spiritual master is fully absorbed in the loving moods of serving Krishna. He can constantly glorify Krishna's names and those of Rukmini and Krishna's other beloved devotees. Astutavat tasa mahatmyam kirtaniyam iti namapi visheshena grahitum ashakyam nija jivanaika karana Shri Bhagavat Kirtanadi Vichedaka Prema Vaivashya Vishesha Shankaya ityashayena aho iti dvabhyam. Okay, those gopis, they are so glorious and they need to be glorified. But even the name cannot be uttered. My Guru here refers to Sri Badarayani Sukadeva Goswami. The gopis were okay. Gopina Vidatad Kutasputatara Premanalaarchis Chata Dagdhanam Kilanam Akirtana Kratat Tasam Vishesha Smrute Tattishna Jwalanot Chikagra Kanika Parshena Sadyo Maha Vaikalyam Sabhajan Kadapi Namukhe Namani Kartum Prabhu. The gopis were consumed by the expansive flames of the wondrous blazing fire of love for Krishna. If my Guru chants the names of these gopis and recalls the gopis' distinguishing qualities, he too is touched by sparks shooting forth from the flames of this intense fire, and he at once becomes greatly agitated. Therefore, he has to avoid pronouncing the gopis' names. So he has pronounced the names of Krishna, Rukmini, and so on, but he did not pronounce the names of Sri Radha, Chandravali, and so on. He was simply incapable. The gopis' love for Krishna is unique. It reaches the ultimate extremes of ecstatic intensity, and so it can be compared to a blazing fire. Everything the gopis experience in their lives shines with the light of their Krishna prema, and the flame-like ecstasies from their prema burns their hearts as flames burn a person who comes too close. Shukadeva Goswami is intimately attuned to the mood of the gopis, and therefore he is vulnerable to the danger of becoming too ecstatic. In the helpless state of Viraha Bhava, he might sometimes become incoherent in chanting the name, the glories of the Lord, the devotional practice that is his own speciality and the only support of his vital force. If Shukadeva utters any of the gopis' names, his heart is at once filled with remembrance of the gopis, and the scorching flames of Viraha Bhava make him unable to concentrate on his service. Therefore, while reciting Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit, he avoided mentioning the gopis by name. Many times in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, Shukadeva speaks of the activities and ecstasies, but not the names of individual gopis. Dukhyanto bhi yayuh kaschit doham hitva samutsuka payodhishritya samyavam anudvasya parayayu. Some of the gopis were milking cows when they heard Krishna's flute. They stopped milking and went off to meet him. Some left milk curdling on the stove, and others left cakes burning in the oven. Kasyashchit putana yantya Krishna yantya vivatsana tokayatva rutantanya apadahan shakata yatin. One gopi imitated Putana while another acted like infant Krishna and pretended to serve. Another gopi, crying in imitation of infant Krishna, kicked the gopi who was taking the role of the card demon Shakatasura. Taistai padais tat padavim anvichanto grapto pala vadva padai suprutani lokyartha samam dhruvan. The gopis began following Krishna's path as shown in his many footprints, but when they saw that these prints were thoroughly intermixed with those of his dearmost consort, they became perturbed and spoke. Ityevam darshayantyatah cherul gopyo vichetasaha yam gopi manayat krishno vihayanya striyo vane sachame me tadatmanam varishtham sarva yoshitam hitva gopi kamayana mamaso bhajate priyaha. As the gopis wandered about, their minds completely bewildered, they pointed out various signs of Krishna's pastimes. The particular gopi whom Krishna had led into a secluded forest when he had abandoned all the other young girls began to think herself the best of women. My beloved has rejected all the other gopis, she thought, even though they are driven by Cupid himself. Krishna has chosen to reciprocate with me alone. Tato gatva manodesham driptakeshavam abravet na parayeham chalitum naya mamyatrate manaha evamukta priyamaha skandha arusyatamiti. Tataschantar Bhade Krishna Savadhur Anvatapyata. As the two lovers passed through one part of the Vidvan forest, the special gopi began feeling proud of herself. She told Lord Keshava, I cannot walk any further. Please carry me wherever you want to go. Thus addressed, Lord Krishna replied, just climb on my shoulder. But as soon as he said this, he disappeared. His beloved consort then at once felt great remorse. Kachit haram bhujam shaure, jagrihin jalina muda, kachit dadhar tadbahum, amse chandana bhushitam. One gopi joyfully took Krishna's hand between her folded palms, and another placed his arm, anointed with sandalwood paste, on her shoulder. Kachit samam mukundena swarajjati ramishita. Punninye pujita na priyata sadhu sadhuti. Taddeva dhromunninye tasye manam jabakvada. One gopi joining Lord Mukunda in his singing sang pure melodious tones that rose harmoniously above it. Krishna was pleased and showed great appreciation for her performance, saying, excellent, excellent. Then another gopi repeated the same melody, but in a special metrical pattern. And Krishna praised her also. Kashit tat krita krittapa shwasamlana mukhashriyaha sramsad dukula valaya keshagramshascha kaschana. Some gopis felt so faint at heart that their faces turned pale from their heavy breathing. Others were so anguished that their dresses, bracelets, and braids became loose. Kachin masukaram vikshya dhyayanti Krishna sangam priya prasthapitam dutam kalpayatvedam abravit. One of the gopis, while meditating on her previous association with Krishna, saw a honeybee before her and imagined that it was a messenger sent by her beloved. Thus she spoke to the bee. Now, okay, let me read this paragraph and I'll get back. Someone might conjecture that reverential respect for the gopis for Shukadev's reason for not speaking their names, but Parikshit here denies this by specifying that Shukadev was Krishna Rasavishta, always intoxicated by the spontaneous bliss of Krishna consciousness. It was not out of shyness that Shukadev was reluctant to mention the gopis by name. It was out of fear of losing control of himself. Now one may say, no, this is not appropriate. Shukadev Goswami was not having this kind of appreciation that you people attribute him to be having. But then that doesn't explain how so many verses, Sanatana Goswami is quoting from Bhagavatam. So many, this is only a sample. This is only a sample of a lot of specific detailed activities of the gopis that is being brought out here. And Shukadev Goswami doesn't even name one of them. This is despite the fact that according to Shukadev Goswami, the gopis are the greatest devotees of Krishna, and the process of devotion service to Krishna gives you the greatest benefit. That has been well established from the Bhagavatam verses itself in Priti Sandarbha by Jiva Goswami. So it's very, very clear. It's very clear that Shukadev Goswami must have had some reason for not talking about these gopis by specifying their names. He has specified the names of so many devotees of the Lord, but only for the young gopis of Vrindavan, he is not specifying their names. Even Krishna's queens, he specifies their names. At least the 8 queens, primary queens, he specifies their names. But here are the gopis who are dearer to Krishna than even the queens, but their names are not being specified. So, what is the reason? That reason must be this. There's no other reason other than this. He was Krishna Rasavishnu. He was overcome by Krishna Rasa. That he was overcome by Krishna Rasa is also well acknowledged, because as soon as Parikshit began to ask questions about Krishna, Right from the beginning, he was happy. From second canto, he was happy. That all of this is going to lead to direct discussion about Krishna. So, since he loves Krishna so much, naturally his respect for those who are dearest to Krishna had some role to play in this matter. Tasam natham ballavinam sametam tabih premna samshrayanti yathoktam mata satyam tat prasadan mahatvam tasam yatum shakyashi tvam chikinchat. If you follow my advice and with pure love take shelter of the gopis and their master, Lord Shri Krishna, then, oh mother, I promise that by Krishna's mercy, you'll be able to understand something of the gopis' greatness, without first scientifically understanding the special qualities of the gopis that distinguish them from everyone else. One cannot develop the true desire to become a servant of the gopis, nor beyond that can one realize the supreme truth of their ecstatic worship of Krishna. With this idea in mind, Parikshit offers this promise to his mother. In what he had spoken, he could not have explained to her everything about the gopis' glories, nor could she have been expected to understand completely what he had told her. To gradually realize his deep subject matter, she would have to follow the standard process of devotional meditation. First, she would have to begin practicing worship of Krishna while following in the footsteps of the gopis, as her son had outlined in his narration. By this practice, she would acquire some partial understanding. That understanding would help her worship become mature, which in turn would allow her to know the transcendental reality in more detail, so that finally she would achieve the perfection of prema bhajana, prema bhakti. In this way, by worshipping the Supreme Lord, one comes to know the greatness of the gopis. And by knowing the greatness of the gopis, one advances in worship of the Lord. This Shastra, Bhagavatamrita, declares throughout that pure devotional service to Krishna can be realized only by one who has specific knowledge of both the personality of God and the process of bhakti. Nonetheless, when one has learned the glories of the gopis, the greatest of all the Lord's devotees, one will automatically understand the Lord and his devotional service without any other effort. Etan Mahakhyana Varam Mahahare Karunya Sara Layanishchayarthakam Yashradhaya Samshrayate Kathanchana Prapnoti Tatrema Tathaiva Sopyaram. With the help of this most excellent narration about the Supreme Lord, which shows who has received the essence of the Lord's mercy, one can understand him for certain. Anyone who for any reason takes shelter with faith of this narration will quickly attain love for Lord Shri Krishna. To Parikshit's promise, Srila Sanatana Goswami now adds his own. By taking shelter of the Supreme Lord's devotees, one can understand their special glories, which further leads one to enter particular methods of devotional worship and finally attain pure love for the Lord. This sequence of perfection is wonderful enough in itself, but even more wonderful is that one can achieve the same perfection simply by hearing this Bhagavatamrita with faith. The purpose of this book is to make known how Sri Chandra, the original personality of God, acts as the unlimited source of super excellent compassion. Sincere readers will quickly rise to the goal of Krishna Prema, especially when they conscientiously follow the authorized principles of sadhana bhakti. Okay, so thus ends part 1. Let me anyway point this out. How the commentary derives from the Digdarshini Tika. The appendix consists of two sample passages, text 121 of chapter 6, text 7 to 9 of chapter 7. For each passage, the transliterated Sanskrit text and its translation are followed by Srila Sanatana Goswami's Tika, split into individual sentences in transliterated Sanskrit with translation, each sentence numbered for reference. My commentary follows with bold numbers and brackets indicating the sentences from which the commentary derives. Tatratya Yamana Swalpa Jala Sushkeva Sajani Govardhano Bhun Nicho Sau Swah Prapto Yodhritaspaya. In Braja, the river Yamuna has turned so dry, she has hardly any water. And Govardhan, who when you held him up touched heaven, has now become short. Purvoktam Kshinatvam Vivrinvan Shoka Karanatvam Evaha Tatrete. Elaborating on the previously mentioned debilitation. How it is a reason for lamentation is described in the verse beginning Tatra. Prajabhumi Sambandhini Sa Vipula Taranga Vali Paramagambhir Yadi Yukta Bhavadiya Tattat Krida Bhume Yamana Swalpa Jalasati Shushta Praya Bhut Bhavad Yogad Tapat. That Yamuna, who is connected with Brajabhumi, who has ranges of broad waves, who is endowed with great depth and so on, and who is the playground of your various sports, now has very little water and has become practically dried up due to the intense suffering caused by separation from you. Atas tasyam praveshenam maranam ghatate iti bhava. That's what the idea is. It is not possible to die by entering her. Bhrigupatenapi maranam nasyaditi abhiprayena aha govardhana. With the idea in mind that death by Bhrigu's jump, a suicidal leap, is also not possible. The words beginning Govardhana spoken. Vaya kare dhritastan yo Govardhana swargam prapte iti paramochatta darshita. That Govardhan who reached heaven when held by you in your hand. This shows how supremely elevated Govardhan was. Tathacha Harivamshe. Shikarai Ghurnamanaishcha Siramanaishcha Padapai Jidratash Chodhatai Sringai Agaman Khagamo Bhavat iti. Thus in the Harivamsha. When Krishna lifted Govardhan, its peaks waved back and forth. The trees upon it trembled, and its inaccessibly high peaks reached outer space. Tathacha Tatreva. Aplutoyam Girish Pakshay iti Vidyadharo Raga Gandharva Sarasashchaiva Vacho Munchanti Sarvasha ityadi. And similarly, there itself in the same Harivamsha, Vidyadharas, Uragas, Gandharvas, and Apsaras complained on all sides that this hell was bumping into their wings and so on. Asau Nicho Bhut Bhavad Viraha Dukkhena Shila Chayas Kharanacha. He became low because of entering within the earth in the pain of separation from you, and also because many rocks from his rows of peaks fell down. Sri Yamuna, the site of many of Krishna's pastimes, was once a great broad river with mighty waves and swift, deep flowing currents. Now in pain over Krishna's absence, she has become just a trickle, diminished to almost nothing. So that's from 2. To drown oneself now in the meager water of the Yamuna would no longer be feasible, nor could one still commit suicide by jumping from the top of Govardhan. Not long before, Govardhan's height had been formidable as testified in Sri Harivamsha. So like that, you can see another example. This is a variant reading. It doesn't display properly here. for Bhagavatam verse. All right. I'll stop with that. Any questions? Okay. I'll stop with that. Next session will begin with the second part.